In the very first episode of this show, I speak of listening to podcasts for the very first time. It was during the pandemic, and I wasn't working because I had just lost my job 6 weeks before everything shut down, and I was walking a lot. The podcast that drew me in was called Failing Forward, and the guests all have some measure of failure or a life misstep that provided a pivotal moment for them. I guess the question is, are these truly failures or the stepping stones that propel us forward to success? And it gave me pause to hear these stories and also provided clarity to examine what may be missing in my own life. It was then that I decided that I needed a creative outlet, hence the early beginnings of what would become asking for a friend. I would be remiss if I did not mention that I consulted with the host of the Failing Forward podcast as I was devising my plan, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the very engaging and inquisitive Sarah Brown. Health, wellness, career, relationships, and everything in between. We're removing the taboo from what really matters in midlife. I'm your host, Michelle Folan, and this is Asking for a Friend. Welcome to the show, everyone. My guest today is Sarah Brown. She is the Senior Director of Sales Enablement and Talent Acquisition at Health Carousel, which is a medical staffing agency. She also does executive coaching. And on top of all of that, she is the host of the Failing Forward podcast, which she's had for over 5 years, and I'm not sure how you do it all, but welcome to the show, Sarah Brown.
Thank you, Michelle.
I'm so excited to have you here. I will credit you. Your podcast is the whole reason I have a podcast.
I love that.
It's all your fault.
Well, it's all your fault, yeah. No, but you can't say I get that credit because you did the work. I just was the spark.
Yeah, a big spark. I don't know if you know this or not. Do you know what your global ranking is for your podcast?
No.
There's a site that's called Listen Notes. I looked you up today. You're in the top 1.5% of podcasts globally.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. There's 3 million podcasts out there, and you are in the top 1.5%.
I had no idea.
I'm in the top 5%. But yeah, kudos. That's awesome.
Well, kudos to you too.
Well, we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're definitely getting there. Before we get started, I would love for you to introduce yourself. Just tell us a little bit more about who you are and where you're from.
I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, born and raised. I always tell people I went away to college. I went to Providence College in Providence, Rhode Island. People are always like, is that Providence, Rhode Island? I'm like, yes. Catholic school. I went to 16 years of Catholic school. I moved back after I graduated because my dad was sick.
Oh.
And I'm so happy that I moved back. Although I do wish there were times where I would have spent those early 20s, moving to Chicago or moving to San Francisco. Really, it was Atlanta back then. Anyway, middle child of 3, older sister, younger brother, very close with them. Big Catholic family. My mom's one of 8. She was number 5 of 8. She had all sisters and one brother. Family was very, very important.
Nice. You haven't always been doing the talent acquisition and coaching, have you?
Sales enablement, no. I started at Health Carousel to help them stand up. They didn't have a performance management system or a learning management system or leadership development. I helped stand that up. And then I said to my manager, who was one of the greatest, I said, I really want to do more. And there's not a whole lot of opportunity and growth in HR. I'd like to go into the business. They basically created a job for me, which was amazing. People don't really totally know what sales enablement is. It's how do we help our salespeople be more productive and successful? And that could be process, that could be analytics, and that could be training. I had that training vein already. I had had that experience. I brought that with me. And then the leaders at Health Carousel really stacked my team and hired somebody who did process and operations and somebody who did analytics. And now we're an 18-person team, and we have talent acquisition as part of the team now too. We've really, really grown in the last couple of years. So that's exciting.
That is.
That's a gift. But I will tell you, and I know we'll get into that, all of that was a gift of my sobriety. I really believe I got sober. I wasn't what you would call an alcoholic drinker. I did drink on the weekends and maybe 1 or 2 nights a week. I didn't drink alone. I mean, maybe I'd come home and have a glass of, but like I didn't really do that very often. But it was an obsession of the mind for me. I always was thinking about when I was going to drink again because I was always trying to schedule it and control it. I finally quit almost 5.5 years ago. It changed my life. The podcast came because of that. I closed a business that I had. I got this new job. Just the world opened up.
That's really great to hear you say that. It's brave.
Thank you.
I think to say I quit drinking, whether you had a problem or not, it was holding you back.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend tonight who on and off the last couple of years has done a dry January and all this stuff. In the past, we used to say, well, they're definitely a problem drinker because they're drunk all the time or that, it's not like that anymore. It's pretty gray and it's very unhealthy. And people want to tell themselves that, oh, a glass of red wine no, it's not good for your body. It wasn't good for my brain. I know that because my hangovers were insane. It's very countercultural to quit drinking. And I really hope that that becomes more normal because your life is so much better without it.
I think it is becoming a little more normal. There's so much out there in the way of non-alcoholic beverages. At least they pop up on my phone all the time because probably I look at that stuff.
But going to a restaurant, not all restaurants have mocktails.
Oh, no, I know.
They don't.
I know.
And if you're not drinking, people will be like, oh, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's either you have a problem or something weird is going on with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll go to book club or just a gathering with my friends. I won't typically drink just because I want to feel good the next day.
Yeah.
The more I do that, the more it convinces me that I can probably do it full time. Just cut it out totally. I haven't yet, but I'm inching there.
It's so much better than people think. And I had time to do things. My first guest on my podcast is Tony Miller. I heard him in an AA meeting. I didn't know him. I didn't know his backstory. Came later to find out I knew his wife, Mary. On a whim, I was like, would you ever be on my podcast? And he was like, sure. It was my first and maybe one of my favorite episodes because he was so nervous. He didn't want to come. I used to record at a studio. He couldn't find the studio, called his admin, was like, I'm not going. I can't find it. And she's like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Because he was a nervous wreck. And it was beautiful. He said his 3 failures in life were his biggest blessings: alcoholism, 3 marriages, and diabetes.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's a lot. But it just shows the power of human resiliency. It's inspiring. It's like if I'm having a bad day, I look at him and I'm like, okay, if he's doing it, I can do it.
Absolutely. But it's that whole learning. And we'll talk a little bit more about your podcast.
Okay.
But there was a precursor to this. You were an entrepreneur.
I was.
You opened a business called Blown.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share what that was all about?
My business partner, Jane Heekin, and I, we opened Blown. It was a blow-dry bar. No cuts, no colors, just blow-dries and styles. It was in Kenwood. It was the most beautiful space that we built out. It was next to Fusion. Well, it doesn't even matter for people that are out of the city. But it was a beautiful salon. Michelle, we put so much money into it. Also, it was a brand new category for the city. I mean, people didn't know what a blow-dry bar was then. Other cities knew, like a New York and a Dallas and a LA, but not Cincinnati. We had to educate people on what are the pros and benefits, value of getting a blowout. And then we had to sell it to them, or we had to provide the service. It failed, and it was awful because I owed a lot of money. It was embarrassing. I had some identity tied up with it. Yet I learned so much. And it was actually through there that I had a different coach at the time, executive coach, and she was like, I think you need to do something positive with this failed business. And that's how the podcast came about. But it was a rough go.
Well, don't you think that maybe you were just a little ahead of your time?
I do think we were ahead of our time. I don't know if people in Cincinnati will ever, it's not a habit for women here. You know how people go get your nails done? It's not a habit to get a blowout. People were using it for weddings and events. Only a small few were doing it so that they had good hair for a couple days. Probably because, like me, if I could go a blowout for 4 days, I don't know. Maybe we were ahead of our time. Maybe.
But it did launch you off to do your podcast.
It did.
I am going to encourage everyone listening to this podcast to listen to a few episodes of yours because it really did lift me up during a time when my confidence had taken a hit. Listening to your guest stories was not only motivating, but it was very inspirational because I think of your platform and it's people who have had some kind of a failure or misstep in life and how they've used that to propel themselves forward. You used your own experience to start this podcast. Now, I have to ask you.
Yeah.
How was the process in starting this? Because this was almost 6 years ago when you started this podcast. Tell me a little bit about the process. Was it scary? And were you afraid of failing again?
No, because I was like, I don't know if anybody is going to listen to this. I thought if one person gets something out of it, then I've done my job. Just one. That would be great for me. And you know what else? I never thought of this. That was such a good question. When guests are on the show, they learn something about themselves, just like I am right now. All the guests, while you're really vulnerable and you're nervous being on the show, people like to be seen. And I could see them just like you're seeing me.
Yeah.
It's not only a gift to the person that was on the show, but if I could inspire one person, then I was fine. So no, I mean, honestly, the universe took care of everything. I mean, I'm not kidding. Everything.
You've had some amazing guests and you've really branched out now. You have guests from all over, which I think is great. I mean, many of your guests I know just from living around here.
Because they're local.
But now you've got people from all around. That's very fun.
Yeah.
I think for me, the overarching takeaway, if I could say one thing that I got out of your podcast was be true to yourself. That I've carried with me.
Then teach me how to do that. There are so many times where I think, how can I be more true to myself? How were you true to yourself? I don't mean to switch roles here, but I'm doing it.
Oh, no. I know. I was going to ask you if it's hard being on the other side of the microphone. I think it's going after what I really want in life and not acquiescing to what people expect of me necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
I care less and less now about what people think of me. I just want to make me happy.
I love that. Do you think that that comes with age? I'm 49. I definitely want to make me happy more than I used to. And I'm figuring out what does make me happy. I don't even know some of those things.
I think for me, it was wanting to create something. I knew I needed a creative outlet, and this is fulfilling that.
Okay, you want to know what's so weird? You're the third person that has said that to me in the last couple of weeks. Someone said to me, your podcast is your creative outlet. And I thought, my God, I never thought of it that way before. I never thought of myself as a maker.
And I've never had the opportunity to because of working and raising kids. And I never really got to do anything for myself other than maybe work out, go to the gym. I mean, it's like, oh, that doesn't really fulfill me. We talk on the show all the time, Sarah, about we're going to live to be in our 80s, maybe even our 90s. Is your life the way it is now going to sustain you and keep you elevated? I think that's why I'm seeing so many women creating things for themselves, doing really wonderful things for other people, and still being super involved. But they didn't get to do this until they were maybe in their late 40s, early 50s, because their kids are out of the house. Maybe they're not caring for their aging parents any longer. And I say that all the time. They've got some me time. It's really cool to see people reinvent themselves in midlife.
That's the same thing that I had, but just after sobriety or after blown failing. Really, I had more headspace after sobriety. I mean, sobriety and blown sort of happened at the same time. Although I wasn't out about the sobriety thing, I was more out about blown. But I just had more brain space than I had before.
You went through AA, right?
I did.
Looking back, did you think you needed AA? Or now thinking today, you could have done that without that organization?
I'm only going to speak for myself. I 100% needed it. But I also came from a family, my father was in it before my parents even met. It was not a scary, there was no stigma associated with it for me. And some people have some biases or stigma. And then when they get to it, they're like, oh, okay, well, really, this is just about a way of living and it's community. And I for sure needed it. I'm going to go back to the friend that I was talking to tonight who was struggling with moderation. And I said, I would never call somebody or term anybody an alcoholic. I said, I don't think that you fit into the criteria. And that's not my job to say. But I think you might get something out of going because we need community when we have a big habit change. We need to rewire the brain, and AA does that. Big fan of it. I did 90 meetings in 90 days, did it all because I knew I needed the support.
Oh, you did 90 meetings in 90 days?
That's the norm. They say when you go in, go every single day. And if you miss a day, do 2.
Wow, that's a commitment.
For some people, it's not a big change. They could not drink and it not be a big deal. But for a person like me who tried to moderate forever, I needed that snap to get out of it.
Interesting. Okay. I've never heard you really talk about it in those terms before.
The other thing is there are so many other options if you've got an issue with AA. There are so many options out there now that weren't out before. There are sober curious groups. There are, what's her name? Annie Grace. She has a whole thing on the alcohol experiment. There's Laura McGowan. I mean, most of those people, Annie Grace didn't do AA. Laura McGowan did. Sober curious woman didn't. I met her, Ruby Warrington. But she just was like, this is for the birds, man. I'm getting rid of it. And she could do that.
Some people are like that.
They are.
Some people don't even miss it. I've had a couple shows on sober curious or people who have decided to leave it.
You know what else too? As we get older, it becomes more of a habit and it hurts our bodies even more. I think we fail to look at that. Have you ever heard of Huberman Lab?
Yes.
He's out of Stanford. Okay. He just did a whole episode on the science of alcohol. And you think that when your hangover's over that it's out. No, there's actually a delay. It's a depressant. I want to say maybe a week later or something. Anyway, health-wise, it's terrible for you. And that's why young people aren't doing it. They're taking gummies, which, whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to do a show on cannabis too, by the way.
You should. I am not California sober. I am totally sober. Some people are California sober where they will get high. None of it is good for me because it's all mind altering. I'm self-medicating, so I don't touch any of that. But some people it works for.
There's some stigma around it. I don't know really much about it at all. I'm a geek. I like to learn things. I have someone that's going to be on the show who is a researcher, a cannabis researcher at the University of Boulder.
That's awesome. I'm supposed to have this woman who's the CEO of the largest cannabis farm in California. But we've been playing back and forth on dates, and I'm hoping to snag her too. Just a different perspective.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
The whole landscape has changed a ton in the last few years. It's going to be more prevalent.
We know that it's healthier for the body than alcohol. We know that.
Yep.
What I'd love to deep dive into is microdosing and psilocybin. I'm really interested in that.
What's that?
Mushrooms.
Oh.
Because there are amazing positive effects for people who have depression, trauma,
Interesting.
PTSD.
I've seen people doing mushroom coffee.
Oh.
There's a mushroom coffee that has all these benefits of antioxidants and that sort of thing.
I bet that that's not hallucinogenic, though.
It's not hallucinogenic, but there's good stuff there. I want to talk about your show a little bit.
Okay.
I said you've had some wonderful guests on your show. Which guests made the biggest impact on you? I know your first one, you said Tony Miller.
I would say Tony did at the beginning just because I didn't know what was going to happen when he came in. I believe that the universe gave all of them to me for a reason. Somebody asked me, is this your way of healing yourself through talking to all of them? And I said, yes, it is. The ones that stood out, I loved a man, he's Muslim, and I loved hearing about different faiths, that the Muslim tradition is started in, I hope I don't get this wrong, but the Abrahamic tribe, which came Hebrew, Christianity, and Muslim, were more similar than dissimilar in our faiths. He was just a kind soul. I loved him. I loved Lynn Myers, who runs a theater in Cincinnati, who so vulnerability-esque talked about how one of their first shows, they wanted to get these inner city students to one of the shows, and it was a cold day, and these poor kids had no mittens, no hats, no coats, and they were taken to the theater. The people on her team and her cried because they were like, I cannot believe we've done this. Somebody on the board found out about it, or, they shared how upset they were that they got these kids and bust them, they walked. Somebody on the board started making scarves.
Aww.
It became like a thing where they made scarves for all these kids and their families. Something that was so sad became so beautiful.
See, and that's what I'm talking about. People are doing good things and they don't always talk about it.
People are doing good things. I just heard this Brene Brown podcast last week. It's her last one. She and her sisters did. I forget what it was called. Anyway, it was on Spotify. Her last one was whether or not you believe that people are doing the best they can. She talked about how she really struggled for a while with that question. So they did research on it and they asked people, do you think people are doing the best that they can? We're not talking serial killers or anything like that. We're talking about you and me. Then she created a model. It's called BIG. It's boundaries. And I forget the other two, I and G. But the boundary piece, if you believe that people are trying to do the best they can, believe that, and then set boundaries around what you need. So going back, Michelle, to what you said about I'm doing stuff for me. I think doing stuff for me is about setting boundaries too. Here's what I need in this situation. Not that I can't give, because I can give. But if I'm always giving, and I'm not setting anything up for myself, there becomes resentments. I used to drink over resentments. AA taught me that I don't need to drink over resentments anymore. I need to set boundaries. I need to understand what I need. I need to voice it, and then I need to follow through on it. Why did I tell you that? I don't know.
Oh, well, you were talking about Brene Brown. Do you listen to any other podcasts?
I love hers. The ones that I did listen to before I started the podcast was Mark Maron's WTF, What the Fuck. I hope that was all right that I said that.
That's fine.
Remember Serial? Yeah, it was an NPR podcast. Oh my God, it was so good. We donated to NPR because it was so good. This is before podcasts were a thing.
Yeah. You were the first podcast I ever listened to.
No!
Yes.
Oh my God, I love you.
You didn't know that.
No!
I never listened to podcasts before COVID because I lost my job 6 weeks before everything shut down. I started walking and I would listen to you while I was walking.
I remember talking to you. I was in Fresh Market when I talked to you. I remember exactly where I was.
I know. For our listeners here, Sarah was one of the people that I talked with before I started the podcast to get some ideas and input and advice. She didn't talk me out of it.
I told you to do it.
I know you did.
So glad you did.
Don't wait till it's perfect.
It's never going to be perfect.
You just got to do it. I did want to ask you something.
Tell me.
You got divorced.
Yeah.
Are you dating?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there's a nice smile.
I am.
Good.
Girl, it is different than it was 21 years ago.
Is it because you are meeting people online?
I think, but it's also you have more of a story to share.
Mm.
In my 20s, I didn't really have a story to share. And now I don't mind dating because I like learning about people. They might not be my one or I might not be their one, but it's really fascinating to meet guys and hear their stories. That's probably my favorite part. I mean, it's hard though.
There's plenty to talk about.
I mean, you have to put yourself out there. It's a lot of energy. I took a hiatus for October through December. I was kind of seeing somebody, but not serious. But I took a hiatus and now I'm going to get back in it. But you got to it's a mental game.
I met my husband on Match.com.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
I got divorced, separated in 2007. We divorced in 2009.
Wait, did you tell me that? Did I know that? I don't think you told me that.
Yeah. I met Michael in 2011. Wow. And
what?
He lived 30 seconds from me, but I would never have met him.
No.
Our paths would never have crossed.
No way.
Yeah.
Divorce is hard. I think if anybody that's listening to this, the biggest thing that I've learned about divorce is that you don't get over it overnight. Maybe you can agree with me on that. It takes time. And I thought, well, I'm going to work on this and I'm going to get with my therapist and I'm going to do these things. It takes time. You grieve. I literally have had people say to me, but you've been divorced 2 years and you're still struggling with stuff. I'm like, yes, I am. I was with him for 18 years.
Yeah.
I wish I wasn't. I'd like to be healed. But somebody said to me, it's like when you marry somebody, you're like a piece of wood. Then when you get divorced, when you break a piece of wood apart, you've got splinters. You've got splinters of both people on both sides. It's part of you.
And I think you also have to learn to be alone for a while too.
Totally. And the difference between alone and lonely. I was lonely in my marriage. I'm alone now. I can feel lonely, but not as lonely as I was.
I have a friend. She's an executive coach as well. She just started doing divorce coaching. Wow. This is something that she and I talked about. She's going to be on a show. I think it comes out Monday.
It comes out Monday? I want to listen to that.
She doesn't work with the grieving person. She really works with that person who's ready to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and get back out there. But they need tools, right? They need a platform to jump off of to get there. That's what she's doing. What happened with her was she's up there coaching and preaching to these executives on how they should be.
Hold on. This is what I want to say, though. When you say who aren't grieving, I'm a person that pulls myself from the bootstraps. I'm ready.
Yeah.
But then there are moments of grief. Do you know what I mean? That's a death that happened. Your marriage, your family. And it's okay. It's so okay that you are going to have days that you're sad about it.
Oh, sure. And she just said they're at that point, and they still may be grieving, but they're not, they're ready.
They're ready.
They're ready to.
They're open.
Move on. Yes, they're open to moving on and moving to the next stage of their life.
Yes.
and build their life, right? But she said that what was interesting as she's sitting there preaching to these executives on how they should be doing things, she said she wasn't taking her own advice. And she said she'd walk off the stage and just go back to her room and cry. She said, "This is ridiculous. Why am I doing this to myself? I need to move on." And then she started implementing her own advice into her own recovery. That's where she is today. It's really a cool story.
What's her name? That's amazing.
Her name is Peg Rupert.
Wait, Peg is doing that? No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I can't wait to talk to her about this.
I thought maybe you two might know each other.
Yeah, I totally know her. She's amazing.
She's great. We went to college together. We're sorority sisters.
Wow.
Small world. Gotta love Cincinnati. Everybody knows each other.
I love that. I'm going to text her. Beautiful.
So what's next for Sarah Brown?
What's next is some big, bold goals at Health Carousel. That is my focus this year. Well, my word for the year is joy. I'm doing a ton of travel for myself personally. I just got back from a wellness resort in California. I'm going to Miraval next month. I'm going to go to Mexico City. Good amount of travel because that's joyful for me. And then big, bold goals with Health Carousel for sure.
Great.
The lots to do there. And I'm actually slowing down. So I only have 2 coaching clients this year on purpose. And I'm continuing to do the podcast.
Good. Yay. Never stop doing it.
I'm not.
Speaking of that, how can listeners find you and your podcast?
We're on every podcast app, Spotify, Apple, you name it. You just search Failing Forward and you'll see a picture of me. You can also go to our website. We have it on our website, failforwardpod.com.
Great. Sarah, thank you.
Michelle, this has been so awesome. I can't even thank you enough. First of all, I love that you knew that stat and I had no idea. None.
That's what I'm here for.
Like, I should be really proud of that. Gosh, it's really amazing.
I'll give you the website so that you can look it up for yourself and see it there in black and white.
And maybe I'll try Match.
Worked for me.
I know.
You're the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Follow Asking for a Friend on social media outlets and provide a review and share this show wherever you get your podcasts. Reviews and sharing help us grow.